This is Brian Clark, In Your Head Wrestling, 3-time World Tag Team Champions, breaking necks and cashing checks.
All right, we're back. Welcome to In Your Head Wrestling Radio. I'm the Internet icon, Jackie Jones, along with my right-hand man.
1-inch biceps, the power goat.
Yeah, that was an extra bond there because he is so excited. Returning to the show after 7 years.
I love this guy.
Legendary villain, the master of the heart punch, the 2005 In Your Head Interview of the Year, star of John Carpenter's Escape from New York, and the man with the greatest mustache I've ever seen. Ox Baker is with us. How are you doing?
Fantastic Ox Baker's on the air right now. Hello, all my wrestling fans out there. I know this program is probably going downhill, wasn't getting the high rating, but they give Ox Baker a call and said, Ox, will you get on this show? And I said, what I'll do, I'll get on this show. I want people to be thrilled. And also, if you listen to this show, if you've got any question that you would like to ask about wrestling, you got the fantastic Ox Baker. Call up this. I'll answer any question. I don't care if we get to stay on here 5 days. I got a lot of answers to questions. Call in. And if you can't read or write, have your next-door neighbors do it. But call in and ask them questions because we're ready for a great program tonight.
Now, the former record was like 3.5 hours. He's really going to destroy that record with the 5-day interview. But we'll see how that goes. The number is 508-644-8503. And we got a live chat room here at IYHWrestling.com. You can post some questions right in there. And right away, we're going to let everybody know. Coming up this
How you doing there, my friend? You sound real good tonight.
Oh, I'm excellent. And I'm really excited now that we're talking to Ox.
Oh, yeah.
The last time I talked to you, it's a true story. We're at the FanFest, which we're going to go over again here. And I walked by and I had a fedora on, and you said, where did you get that ridiculous hat?
No, stop it. You should have slapped me right upside of my bald head.
It kind of made my day, actually. But this will be our 7th year going to the FanFest, August 2nd through the 5th, Charlotte, North Carolina. And for all your ticket information, NWALegends.com.
There are a lot of great names this year. I want to talk about all the great names. I want you people to know who's going to be there. And, of course, the fantastic Ox Baker's going to be there.
Mm-hmm. The names are loaded already. We got Angelo Mosca.
Angelo Mosca, I got to tell you a funny story about. We was up in Calgary, and I was doing a program. You guys have probably heard the Mongolian Stopper. For 8 weeks, we sold out every town that Stu Hart had there. Andrew Mosca just got out of, I guess he was the most dangerous man in football in Canada. He wanted to get into professional wrestling. He got started in Stu Hart's territory, but he had to wait 8 or 9 weeks for me and the Stopper for our program. And every week he said, when you guys are going to finish up? And I said, well, I just got a call from Japan. They want me over next week, so me and the Stopper are working a loser leave town. And I said, Angelo, then you can get your chance. He said, well, it's about time. And, after that day, I didn't see him for over 15 years.
When's the last time you seen him?
Well, I went up, I did I had the fantastic Ox Baker's cookbook, which is sold over 2,500 copies, and he had me up there in Toronto. He wanted me to do a cook show. I cooked some meat for him, made him a very nice dinner. Him and Johnny Powers, by the way, and we sat down, and we had a great 2 or 3 hours, and they said, Ox, I thought you were just a great talker, but you also are a great cook.
What would be your specialty?
It's not soup.
Well, but believe it or not, over the years, I made chili so good that the neighbors that hated me next door would say, Ox, could I have a bowl of your chili? They'd come in there, they'd have 1 or 2 bowls, and as they was leaving, they'd say, you're a great cook, but we still don't like you. But chili was my favorite, and then they did a testimony for Bruno Sammartino. They had me do one of my famous meatloaves, and the guy on nationwide TV said, Ox, I don't know if your meatloaf is any good, but it tastes better than what my mom makes. And that's the best compliment I've ever had. Better than Mom makes.
No, we have a little debate here, Intra and I. Chili with beans or without beans?
You know what I did? I always eat chili with soup in it, and I always only put a half a can of tomato juice in there, so that chili was always good and thick. And of course, I put a couple of cans of beans in it, and then I sprinkled it with a handful of garlic on the top of it. And like the neighbor said, Ox, a great cook, but we still don't like you.
Well, this man knows, Jack. He puts beans in his chili. He knows it's not chili without beans.
None of that hot stuff. When you sit down for a bowl of my chili, you say, oh, my Ox, can I have some more? I don't even need any crackers for your chili.
Sounds like good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, Johnny, you mentioned Johnny Powers. He is also going to be here. I think this might be his first convention appearance.
Well, I'm glad that Johnny, Johnny, I went up to see him about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was hobbling around. I said, why don't you I'm scared to get my knees done. I took down my pants and I showed him that I had both of my knees done. It added 25 years to my life. And Johnny said, well, if you can do it, big boy, I can do it too. And he called me the other day and said, Ox, I'm ready to tap dance. And Johnny Powers was one of my all-time favorites, and he always liked Ox Baker. And I want to say, a gentleman is Johnny Powers.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any good story with Johnny Powers? Have you guys traveled?
Well, the good story is we was in the most famous riot of all times in Cleveland, Ohio. I got back to the dressing room, I'm cut open, 23 stitches in my head. Johnny Powers, he was part of the promotion. He looked at me and he glanced down at his book and he said, Ox, how's your head? I said, it's all right. I said, it's bleeding a little bit. I'm sore a little bit. He said, well, make sure you make TV tomorrow because you're on TV tomorrow. I said, my head is broken over. You're down for TV. You better be there. That's what I remember. That's a true promoter right there.
Yeah. And were you there the next day?
I was there. And you know what? The first thing they did, I was wrestling Ernie Ladd. I wasn't wrestling her, but he come up and he slapped the back of my head and broke about 6 of them stitches open. And the people in the front row, they got covered with me, and they said, maybe wrestling is real. I said, well, that's real blood because it's rolling down my head right now. And Johnny Powers, you got to make TV tomorrow. What about that?
Let's see. We also got Austin Idol.
Austin Idol. You gotta love Austin Idol. He got in a terrible car accident. He laid down for 3 or 4 months while his feet was healed, and he was a better wrestler after that airplane accident. And he's been one of my friends for years, and I'm looking forward to seeing him also.
Mm-hmm. So here, there's so many names. NWA ref Tommy Young. It's got to be like the best.
Tommy Young. I want to tell you what. Tommy Young found out he was not a good wrestler. He tried. He wasn't quite big enough. But I want to tell you, in the history of professional wrestling, when you talk about your great referee, Tommy Young is right at the top. Maybe number 1, maybe number. But always, because he did one thing like I've always did in wrestling. I wasn't the greatest wrestler, but I always get that 100, 150%. Tommy Young always get that 150%. The only trouble, he always said, I don't like you either, Ox.
See, I think actually Tommy Young might hold the record for longest interview here. I think he's 1 or 2. He's definitely up there. Let's get Tully Blanchard.
Tully Blanchard, I started working for his dad, Joe Blanchard, years and years ago when he was growing up. And he got into a lot of matches, and he would come there, he would work his rear end off, and he said, Ox, he said, I know you're the main event, but do you think you can follow the match that I had? And I said, Tully Blanchard, I'll tell you one thing. When they make me the main event, I don't care who's wrestling in front of me, I'll follow that match. And years later, he shook my hand, he said, I guess you're right, Adrian. I've watched you a long time, but Tully Blanchard has always been a gentleman. I think he's going now as Reverend Tully Blanchard. I hadn't seen him in that capacity, but I always remember him like saying, Ox, you can follow my matches.
It is hard to do. I always like Tully's really a guy that was very dislikable as a wrestler. I mean that as a compliment. You'd watch him and like, man, I can't like this guy. We get Jerry Brisco.
Jerry Brisco was a brother of, I would say, one or two or three of the greatest wrestlers ever got into business. Jack Brisco, a very personal friend of mine. He just died last year, and I'm sorry to hear that. But I'm starting a second cookbook, by the way, folks, and one of the stories in there about how I met Jack Brisco over the years. And Jerry always had to take his second seat, but he said, if my brother's the greatest wrestler in the world, I want to be his tag team partner. I know they won some titles together. I know he's had some health problems, and I'll be happy to see him also because he was always a gentleman to me.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And these are names just announced. I don't think they're even on the website yet, but I got some inside information here. Mr. Wrestling 2.
Mr. Wrestling 2, guarantee you, one of the 5 toughest men that ever put on a pair of tights. I wrestled him a few times. I'm a pretty good amateur wrestler, but I couldn't hold a candle to him. And finally I said, you know, they say you're good, but I think you're fantastic. And what he did, he was wrestling number 2. Wrestling number 1, Tim Wood, who just died last year also, he was great, but wrestling number 2 has actually got into more halls of fame than wrestling number 1.
That's good information there. Thunderbolt Patterson.
Thunderbolt Patterson, you can't believe it, 40 years ago, we came to a gym together. Dandy Jack Crawford wanted to train a couple guys from Waterloo, Iowa. We was right below Vern Gagne, Minnesota, and he wanted guys to come up from Waterloo, Iowa, and wrestle him. And me and Thunderbolt Patterson both got into wrestling at the same time. And he also is a preacher there in Atlanta, Georgia. And I want to tell you one thing. They picked one guy from Waterloo, Iowa, to get into Wrestling Hall of Fame. Dan Gable, the greatest amateur wrestler of all time. Him and Danny Hodge are in a tie, by the way. And they picked Ox Baker. Next year, 2013, I'm going to be inducted into Waterloo Hall of Fame. I'm going to shake Dan Gable's hand, and I'm inviting Thunderbolt Patterson to be there because he would have made it, but he just wasn't quite as good as Ox Baker.
So if you see him at the FanFest, we'll have to make sure to bring that up.
He's always been a gentleman. Me and him have been very good friends all the time we've been in the business, and our paths have went here and there, but he was always one of the best, I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Got a couple more names here quick. Les Thatcher.
Les Thatcher, you know, when you talk about Mr. Wonderful or Mr. Nice Guy, you know, you can. It's like me. A lot of guys didn't like me, like I've said, but they always said, Ox, would you do a great interview for me? I want to get over my match. And I always said, Les Thatcher would stop anything he's doing. If he could help somebody, if he could show him another hold, another way of doing things, he was always willing to help anybody. You know, he wasn't quite as good as Ox Baker, but he's a good teacher. And the idea is everybody can help themselves. It's when you take the time to help other people, that's what is a mark of greatness. And Les Thatcher deserves a big mark because he was always willing to help the next guy.
Mm-hmm. And just announced Ron Simmons.
Ron Simmons, you know, he was an All-American football player, and he couldn't quite get it done, but he ran into a natural Bruce Reed. They got together, and it was like up and down over in Abbott and Costello, whatever you want to say. They was a great tag team, and I don't know if everybody knows, they was the first blocks in the history of wrestling to ever win a world tag team championship. Ron Simmons, Bruce Reed, and Ron Simmons said, you know, I almost wish I was good as Bruce Reed, but I want to be on his team.
That was an awesome team, Doom. Big fan of Doom. I liked when they had the mask. Yeah. Did you ever wrestle with a mask? I guess you wouldn't want to cover up that pretty face.
Did I wrestle who?
With a mask on.
Well, you see, if you got a face that wore out two bodies like I have, you didn't need a mask. Because a lot of people ask me, God, May, is it Halloween already? They was only kidding to know, you know, but I had the greatest face, the greatest look in the world. I had to grow them eyebrows up because I had beautiful eyes. A lot of women fell in love with my eyes. So I had to look big, mean, and ornery. So I grew that fantastic beard, you know, and some guys, they actually rip hands. Dick the Bruiser many times would rip a handful out of mustache. I said, Well, I'm just
going to grow it back, you know. And Dick the Bruiser, what a gentleman he was. And he had me 3 years in Indianapolis, Indiana, and that was one of the greatest times I ever had in the wrestling business.
Mm-hmm. How long would it take you to grow out that beard?
Well, I started in 1970. I had a guy named Jonathan Boyd. He said, Ox, instead of grow a mustache where you cut the middle out and get that Fu Manchu. And a lot of people would come up to me over the years.
I'm talking about 2 to 3, 500, 600, and say, I seen you in Fleisch, Gordon. I know you're Fu Manchu. And I'm Ox Baker. And they mistaken me for somebody else. I said, there can't be 2 ugly guys in this world. And I said, well, there is 2, and you're one of them.
Let's see. We got a couple people here on hold. 501 area code. Who are you?
Well, let her answer the question. Come on, speak up and make sure you talk good English. Don't do that stuttering. Don't be an immigrant. Just ask me a question.
That's me. I'm Cotton. Ox, man, you've been my fan, my man forever, man. I hope to meet you one of these days. You're awesome.
Well, you're going to go to that FanFest. That's why they're putting that on. You know what I do? I get up in the middle of the day. I walk around. I say hello to everybody. Because one thing I want to tell you, whether I've kidded about anybody, the people that I really love and still love, the fans. Even in 1965, when it started $1.25, I'd give them 150% because I wanted them to get their money's worth. Now they're paying $100 to go to these matches, and I think there's a lot of disappointment. Some of them go home and didn't get. But in the 60s and 70s, they got their money's worth. Good Ox Baker, Tommy Young, always get that 150%, you know, and because we love the wrestling fans. They're the reason wrestling is so popular. There's a reason that wrestling will never die, no matter what form of entertainment it is, good, bad, or ugly. They do it for the fans, and a lot of them really work super duper hard. And I know I always, like this interview tonight, I want to give 150%. I want these fans to know about this fan. I want them to go there, and they can always come up to Ox Baker and say, "How do you do, Ox Baker?" And I'll say, "I love my fans."
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ox, I got a question for you. I'd rather pay money to go to FanFest than go see anything that the Federation's putting out right now anyway. But I got a question for you from back when you were in the Memphis territory. I grew up watching Jerry Lawler and those guys, and I heard a story, and I just wanted to ask you about it. I heard that Lawler was wanting you to put him over, and
well, you know, he came up to me on TV and, "Ox, I want to make a great star out of you." I beat Andre the Giant and almost lost my tail. I beat John Studd. I beat this guy and that guy. But he said, "I don't have a win over you." He said, "How but the TV said, I can make you a ton of money." I said, "Jerry Lawler, listen, what we'll do is we'll get in the ring before the fans come in. We'll have 10 minutes, and if I can't pin you 5 times in 10 minutes, I'll put you over on TV." He said, "I guess I can't use you in my territory." So Jerry Lawler, no matter what he can say, never had a win over. I never beat him, but he never had a win over a lot of guys he beat. Like I said, Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, but he never beat Ox Baker.
That's exactly what I heard. I just wanted
to
confirm it. So awesome, man.
More people are asking questions on. Come on, ring that phone. If you can't ring it, have someone ring it for you. I got to ask them some questions.
Thank you, Cotton.
Thanks, man.
Let's see, we got that Jericho guy.
Hey, Ox Baker, what's going on, man?
Are you the one with the
How you
dog?
doing there, my friend? What do you want to ask me, you know?
I want to ask you, I know that this wasn't your fault when it happened, but Ray Gunkel actually in my hometown of Savannah, Georgia, you wrestled him, and not long after the match, he passed away, which was apparently from a self-indulgent overeating at a restaurant. Did you get any heat for the death? Because I know that he was a part owner of the...
Like I told you, one of the greatest riots of all time was in Cleveland, Ohio, and Ray Gunkel, believe it or not, beat me up 11 straight minutes, cracked a bone in my wrist. I'm trying to catch my breath. He pinned me 1, 2, 3. I go to the dressing room. Listen to me. They come with a sawed-off shotgun, a machine gun, and said, 200 people want to beat you up. And I said, what is it? Ray Gunko went to the dressing room, and while he was undressing, he dropped over dead. So when I wrestled Ernie Ladd in Cleveland, Ohio, the fans I hit him once, I hit him twice, and they know over the years, when I hit you once with that hard punch, you went down, you stayed down. Well, Ernie Ladd got back up, and someone screamed after I hit him about 6 times, he's trying to kill him! And 300 chairs hit me upside the head, 23 stitches in my head, and like I said to Johnny Power, he's looking at his book there, and he said, Ox, make sure you don't miss TV tomorrow. It's at 2:30. I got hit upside the head. I got 14 chairs. He said, Ox, I need you on TV tomorrow. It's like your show here. You want to get your #1 ratings back, so you called Ox Baker. I don't blame you. That shows you got good common sense, you know. You called me, and anytime you get low on the ratings, just give me because I got all these stories locked up inside of my head. And one guy I got to say hello at this time because I do it every year. I go you guys have heard the name Ole Anderson?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he's in a wheelchair right now, but Ole Anderson was my booker, and he said, Ox, you have one distinction. He said, I've hired you 6 times, and I've fired you 6 times. He said, will you ever learn a wrestling? You're a great talker. Would you learn a wrestling hold? Well, I said, I know the heart punch. He said, yeah, and you know how to stumble inside the ring. Cause one night I tried to get in the ring, and some fan grabbed my foot, and I fell face down, and he fired me that night, too. But Ole Anderson, I love you like a brother, and a lot of people have paid me some good money. Could I tip his wheelchair over? Because I did that to one woman one time. The promoter wanted me to get him worked up, so I tipped this woman over in the wheelchair, and she screamed, and I said, don't worry, someone in the audience will help you, And, of course, I went to jail that night. But that's another one of them stories you hear, you know what I mean?
Thanks for calling in, guy.
All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, you have a question?
Yeah, Mark from the Facebook. He wants to know, how did you like managing the Russian Brute in the AWA?
Well, you see, the Russian Brute, he was the only, I trained 5 guys that went to the wrestling, to Vince McMahon and became millionaires. I wanted to get the Russian Brute there. I sent him, I was doing something, I don't know what it was, but he went there, he went in the dressing room and he looked around and he said, Vince, he said, I can whip everybody in the dressing room. Vince said, I can't use you. So I took a whole year and I got the Russian Brute back to him, and they was trying to push some Indian. And this time I want to say, that Chief Strombo died the other day, and what a gentleman. He was the last great Indian. But I said, Brute, go there, don't say a word to him. So he went there, and he had this big Indian they called Tatanka, right? Mm-hmm. And Vince wanted to make a big star out of it. So I got in there with my Russian Brute, and you got to understand, Russian Brute is about 390 pounds, 6'8". And Kataki hit him real hard, put a mark upside of his head. The Brute said, I don't like to get hit, fella, right? And so they wrestled a little bit, and the Indian hit him again, and the Brute said, that's it. And he busted him right between the eye, knocked the guy out. Brute got to the dressing room, and he got to the dressing room. The booker, Pat Patterson, we can't use your Brute. And they was dragging this Indian in out of the ring. But the Russian Brute was probably as good as talent I've had in the business, I'm training 2 guys right now. I got a 400-pounder down in West Virginia. I call him Grandpa Mountain Man. He's about 400 pounds. And he said, I haven't won a match. I said, what I'm going to do, I taped up his thumb just like I did Ernie Ladd years ago. He put that thumb in the little guy's throat, beat the guy, that threw another guy, threw that thumb in, and in 5 minutes he beat 3 guys. I've been wrestling 12 years, I haven't beat 3 guys. So I found that guy, and then I heard someone had a wrestling school in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. No, New Haven. I went there, and this guy was 6'7". He was going as young Fritz. He got in the ring, and in 5 minutes he took down 4 or 5 guys, pinned them, right? he called a guy out of the audience at 400 pounds. He pinned him, and I said, I want to train you because they need some new talent in the WWE. They need managers back. And I got to tell you a story about that, too. You didn't ask me, but I got on TV 3 weeks ago. The WWE don't have any finish. Nobody's using the sleeper hold. Nobody's using the figure four. Nobody's using Ox Baker's hurt punch. And nobody's using Fitz's claw. Mm-hmm. I turned TV on last night. They got a 300-pound Japanese guy. I don't know what his name is.
Lord Tensei.
He took Fitz Von Erich's claw and pinned that guy with the claw hold. They had to quiet me down, you know. I was in this restaurant. I was on top of the table. They said, we don't want you back in here again. I said, did you see that guy put that claw on? I told Vince that you got to get wrestling. You got to get managers back in there. Mm. You know, when I say Captain Lou Albano, how many guys did he make champion, right? The Macho Man, who I love like a brother, he was nothing without Miss Elizabeth. The Grand Wizard. Mm-hmm. Him and the Sheik and me were the only guys he ever managed. But the great manager. But Vince has took the managers away, and they need them back. And I even told his daughter, she's got 4 daughters. I said, why don't you make her Mother McMahon as a manager? You know, they said, Ox, we'll be talking to you in the future. But a wrestling hold, you don't see that anymore. Nobody gets pinned anymore. They get count-outs, you know. And I know who does that, you know. The fans got to get $100 to see wrestling now. The fans got to get their money's worth. Get a wrestling hold. Get a manager in there. Get some, and for crying out loud, get some wrestling holds. I'll come there and teach some of these guys. The only one that can wrestle is the women up there. They got the best women wrestlers in the world right now. Mm. But the guys, forget it. I thought I was seeing Lawler and Bailey circus with the flips and twists they was doing. They're all trying to copy my good friend Jimmy the Fly Snooker. But there was only one Jimmy Snooker. There was only one Ox Baker. There was only one John. You let me get carried away here now. Stop it, please.
Now, you mentioned you're finding these guys. You found Grandpa Mountain Man here in West Virginia and this new German wrestler you have. When you're looking for the wrestlers, when you're scouting talent, what are you looking for? What stands out to Ox?
Okay, I want to tell you about this Fritz. When he beat 4 or 5 guys, he did it with wrestling moves, right? Mm-hmm. Go behind, takedowns. I was so impressed. I sat there with my big mouth open here. I couldn't even eat my popcorn. Yeah, I love my popcorn. I couldn't eat my popcorn. I was just watching this guy. Well, the Mountain Man, he came out there, and you see nowadays guys, they tiptoe up to the turnbuckle. This guy took a turnbuckle. He shook the whole place. He hit the rope. He could do so many moves, and he said, 12 years hadn't won 3. He won 3 matches the other day. And he said, Ox, could you take me somewhere? And I said, if I took you somewhere, I'd make a star out of you. Vince, sooner or later, has got to use the fan. When he gets a manager, he's got to get loudmouth Ox Baker. Because he has promised the wrestling fan. You've heard it for years that he was going to give him the very, very best talent there was in the world until he gets Ox Baker there. Mm-hmm. Unless he got me manager, he doesn't have the best. Because there's 4 or 5 guys on wrestling 4 halls of fame. Well, I'm one of them. I want to get into the 5th hall of fame, and that's the WWE. I see these guys parade up there. Mm-hmm. They called these guys the other night the 4 Horsemen, right? Mm-hmm. There was 9 guys that were 4 Horsemen. But there's only one Ox Baker, and I want to manage. So I'll take that Grandpa Mountain Man. I'll take that German. I'm even training a secret Indian. I got him in hiding right now. I got this secret Indian because they need another. They've always had an Indian there, right? Mm-hmm. You can go back to Chief Big Heart, right? He was an Indian. You go back to Jay Strombo. He was, I guess, a part Indian, But there's always been, because there's thousands of Indians in that New York area. They need it. I'm training one right now. I train these guys. And, even the Russian brute says, at 40-something, I think he's 50, but he says, 40-something, I could get back in there And I said, well, if you go back again, I'm going to hand walk you right up to the bench and say, I love everybody, you know. Not I can beat everybody up. I can knock out your Indian, you know. If you can't get any questions out there, you must have fan questions.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of fan questions here, Insure. You want to ask one?
Yeah, I got one from Mike. He wants to know, how did you like working for Angelo Paffo's ICW?
Well, see, that's a story within itself. They went there, they couldn't draw any money after a year. And I went up to Angelo Paffo and I said, could I sit down and talk? I said, make me a sandwich at the same time, because his wife always made me a sandwich with it, you know. And she said, Ox, I know when you're coming because if the ice box has got everything in it, when you leave, it's going to be empty. But I said, you got 7 guys in the office, and none of them guys are losing, right? And I said, I checked a guy out called Ronnie Garvin, the Hands of Stone, and he's in Hazard, Kentucky, never been beaten there in 2 years.
Well, I want to not beat him. I want him to get disqualified. I know the dresser drawers are at ringside. I want you to bust that dresser drawer over my head and get disqualified. And, you know, we almost had a riot that night, and 3 9-year-old kids said, if you touch Ronnie Garvin again, we're going to hurt you. They spit tobacco. 9 years old, spit tobacco juice at me. Some woman was in the front row, and I said, lady, are you chewing tobacco? And 13 guys stood up and said, you can't talk to Aunt Mary that way. I said, yeah, you don't think I mean that lady there. I'm talking about that fat one in the back. And 9 more guys, you can't talk about Aunt Margaret. I mean, I'm one over on the left. They're all related in that town. And I want to guarantee you, the night that I wrestled there, you think I showered? I grabbed my stuff, got in my car, and for the first time I broke the speed limit in the first half a block. I got out of that town. I said, no way I can come back there. And the boss said, Ox, you're back there next week with Ronnie Garvin again. I said, well, you're going to get me killed. They said, no, he wants to get disqualified again. And I said, please let me apologize to him. You ever been in Hazard, Kentucky? They feuded for 100 years over who owned a pig, for crying out loud. And I got Ronnie Garvin. But what I did, I turned that territory around. All the guys in the office, they either got disqualified, they got counted out, and we drew money. And finally I said to him, you know, they got to give me a little more money. And that was the wrong word to say to Angelo Paffo, because he said, Ox, he said, we're paying you now more than you're worth. I said, well, I just got an offer to go to Singapore. I'll see you later, right? Mm-hmm. And when I left there, 6 months later, they sold the territory. They couldn't draw anybody, right? So I remember him very well. And again, I loved the Macho Man like a brother. Me and Lanny are the only guys. My cookbook sold 2,500 copies already. I wrote that book. He wrote his book, Lanny. Everybody else has someone else write it for him. We wrote our own books. But they had a good little territory. And, of course, when the Macho Man accidentally run into Miss Elizabeth, the rest is history, because he had a manager. Any questions? I got to answer some questions.
I got to ask about Ronnie Garvin, because it's actually one of my favorite little things you did with him was when he broke your teeth, and then you came out on TV and you said, I love steak, not soup, Ronnie Garvin. I just think that's a great...
Well, I want to tell you that story. What happened was I was dead broke. I was hungry. I was trying to mug a couple muggers on the street, you know what I mean?
All right.
And I did an interview for a doctor, a dentist, in fact. He gave me some new false teeth. I had these old teeth, and I looked in my pocket. I had 13 cents, you know. So I went up to him and I said, if you want to smash my teeth on TV, I don't mind. He said, you want to smash your teeth? And I said, yes. Let me challenge Ronnie Garvin. So I challenged him. He didn't need to step on him 6 times. One time would have been enough, because I could have sold him 2 or 3 more times, you know. But I had a new set of teeth, but he broke them on TV. That was one of the most famous scenes of all time, because I don't believe it's the only time that someone ever broke someone's teeth on TV. And that topped the territory. But like I say, 6 months after I left for Singapore, they had to sell the territory. The rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, I need a question out there. I'm sick and tired of sitting here like a bump on a log. I got a lot of things to say. I want to talk about this fan festival. I want to meet all my fans out there. Yes, I'm going to bring some cookbooks there. I'm going to bring some autographed pictures, you know. And I want to tell you right now, I don't care if you weigh 400 pounds. I don't care if you got 3 hands or 3 feet. I sell to anybody. Mm-hmm. And I'm there to sell. I'm there to meet my pub. I'm there to meet, like I said, I've always loved my wrestling fans. And they want to tell you right here and now, the fans that seen Ox Baker's match always got their money's worth, you know. I mean, I had to tear a suit off on any lad's back one time to get the people to come to wrestling, right? I had to knock the woman in the wheelchair. I should have apologized first, you know, but she kept yelling, "Don't do it! Don't do it!" She was speaking in Spanish. I couldn't understand her at the time.
You have any more of the tie-dye shirts? Because I'm a big fan of those. I'm going to have to pick one up if you have them.
Well, believe it or not, I thought they would sell big. There's only 2 or 3 in existence right now. I bought 150 of them. I thought I could sell them right away. It took me about 2 years to sell them, you know. And I have a couple, but I'll bring I got my wrestling shirts there. I got the legendary I got the Master of the Hurt, but I'm going to bring 200 or 300 shirts there. I don't want to sell any. I want to at least take 10 home. But come and get one of my shirts. And you know what I do that no other wrestler does? When you buy a shirt off of me, if you get an autographed picture, I let you take a picture of me for. Everybody charges for the picture, but if you buy something of mine, right, you take a picture of me free. I've had guys have 14 pictures, right? I didn't care. I said, that's my rule. If you buy a picture, you get to take a picture, you know. And but I love my fan, and a lot of kids come up with 50 and 60 cents and say, can I get a shirt? Yes, you can, you know, because I love I can't emphasize it. The wrestling fans are the backbone of the bit, and they don't leave the wrestling. You know, they get older and they said, I'm too old, but there's always new. You can't kill. They've tried everything. They've exposed it. It is right?
Mm-hmm. Was that ever hard for you to talk to fans like openly about wrestling?
Well, you see, what it is, I want to give you a story which I did over the years. I had 2 fans come up to me and they said, is wrestling real? Mm-hmm. And I said, no, it's not real. And they said, yes, it is. I seen these 2 guys arguing the other day. You killed Ray Gonzo. You killed you broke the Sheik's arm. You broke what's his name. No, it has to be real. And I tell the other guy, I said, yeah, it is real. No, you can't tell it's real. I see them talking to each other. I see them down to McDonald's, splitting the McDonald's together, you know. So you can't, no matter what you tell the fan, in this day and age, the way things are, they've got to be entertained. And wrestling is the greatest entertainment in the world because, like I did years ago, a guy threw a can upside of my head. Big lump upside of my head. The police brought him up to me and he said, what are you mad at me for? I said, well, you threw a can upside of my head. He said, yeah, but I gave $1.25 to come in the door. Why shouldn't I be allowed? I said, let me give you $1.25. I'll throw a can upside of your head. And he said, please take me to jail. I said, get out of here, right? Because I never let any of my fans ever get arrested, by the way. They did a lot of things to me, hit me with chairs, kick me, punch me, you know. They had their grandmother slap me. And I said, let me turn the other cheek, you know. I'll get you outside. No. Always love my fans, and I always will.
Clinton here in the chat room, he was going to call in, but he said he's too afraid what you'll do to him if he asks.
Well, speak up, boys, don't be afraid.
He wants to know how your heart punch compared to Stan Stasiak's.
Well, I'm glad you asked that because Stan Stasiak is in my cookbook. And I want you to say that I honored Stan Stasiak in my book. I never invented the heart punch. Mm-hmm. 2 guys died after getting hit by my heart punch, but Stan Stasiak invented the heart punch, and I want everybody in the world to know that. But Ox Baker, now I call it the hurt punch. It's similar, but it's the hurt punch, and anybody's ever invented a wrestling hold, it's always in some Hall of Fame, you know. Mm-hmm. And I invented the hurt punch, but Stan Stasiak, and he threw it a lot better than I did, you know. But I never took the credit for it, and I will take it now. Stan Stasiak invented the hard punch. Buddy Rogers invented the figure four. Vern Gagne invented the sleeper hold, right? Mm-hmm. Reggie Fox invented the abdominal strip. These are wrestling holds that were invented. And I would never take credit for something that's not mine, and I did not invent the hard punch. I made a lot of money with it. A lot of people thought I, but let's correct him right now. Ox Baker didn't do, but he did invent the hurt punch. And he invented Granddad, Mountain Man Granddad. When you see him with that thumb taped up, driving that in the, well, you have to wait to see that.
OIB here is in West Virginia, so hopefully he'll get to see this man.
I don't know. I don't want to know.
The world. You think I can leave him in West Virginia? Right? Right now, he don't want to leave home. He loves his mother's cooking. He's told me, you know. But I said, if you're going to make if you're going to get Ox Baker in Ox Baker in the WWE, we got to get you up there. We got to get my Indian up there, and a couple other guys. I even have a guy I have a training school down here in Connecticut, but I have two guys that are All-American, have won so many titles. They're my trainers, because I watch the guys when they train. If they do something wrong, not that I yell at them or anything. Do it right, boy! You know, and I just watch from the sidelines, you know. And like I said, when I picked up remember the atom bomb?
Oh, yeah, Brian Clark.
I took him out he was an All-American in Warrenburg, Missouri. When I had my farm in Missouri, I took him to the WWE, right? Mm-hmm. I met Mean Mark McAllister. Mark McAllister out of Texas. You're knocking out I can't beat the Von Erich. I said, well, you don't know how to really take anybody down, you big dummy. So I worked a week out. He called me 2 years later. He was in the WWE. You know who he was going into there? Mark McAllister became The Undertaker. Mm-hmm. Taught how to take guys off their feet by the fantastic Ox Baker.
Mm-hmm. and for a while, he was using the hard punch.
Pardon me?
For a while, he was using the hard punch.
Yeah, well, there was a trick to it. You had to really, believe it or not, a couple of guys, even the Russian Brute tried it a couple of times, almost broke his wrist. There was a way of doing it where you hurt the other guy and not hurt yourself. Because, like in wrestling, there's a lot of little clever tricks, right? Mm-hmm. Like 4 or 5 guys who got their neck broken by doing the pile driver. Because there's a trick to it, right? And if you do the trick wrong, you hurt the guys. Like when I say about wrestling, there's a way of getting hurt, there's a way of not getting hurt, and you have to learn wrestling. You gotta have managers, Vince. You gotta have Ox. Don't let me get carried away here. Sometimes I get a little excited, you know. Is there any questions out there?
Well, we want to let everybody know it's a NWA Legends Fan Fest weekend, August 2nd through the 5th, Charlotte, North Carolina. All your ticket information.
And I want to say it's been the greatest show for years, and a lot of people have said this is going to be his last year, but I'm going to tell Greg Price right now, if he does not want the hurt punch, he better tell him that he's going to do that again and again and again. I don't care if he brings me there, but the fans, my big, beautiful fans, deserve to see the wrestlers there. And he tried it in Atlanta. It fell on its nose. Charlotte, North Carolina, that's the place to do it there. And Ox Baker's going to be there. I want to say hello to each and every one of my fans. And like I said, buy something. You can take a picture of me. I don't care if you bring your grandmother and her folks or whatever they do. Bring them all there. I'm even going to let you guys take a picture of me. How about that?
Oh, that'll be excellent.
Awesome.
I'll be looking forward to that.
I'm going to have to give me a cookbook, too.
I haven't had anybody on for a whole hour. We've been almost a whole hour, and I haven't even started to talk. We didn't write anything down. That's why when I say Ox Baker's the greatest interviewer in the history of wrestling, I do not have to have an issue to talk about on this TV. I don't have to be mad at somebody, you know. Mm-hmm. I just love to talk to my fans. I want these radio stations to be number one. And Greg Price, when you draw them thousands of people for the first time, at least buy me a Diet Coke, you know.
Is that your drink of choice?
I'm diabetic, so I have to drink diet stuff, you know. And my housekeeper's got me down from 305 to 275, you know. She takes all the credit, of course, but that's all right. I drink water, and the odd time I'll sip a beer, and it's so good. But when I found out, my great friend, I want to mention Kamala, he just got his second ankle cut off. Mm-hmm. He had diabetes. I probably didn't watch him, so I loved him like a brother. In wrestling, believe it or not, we're all a big family. When you talk about one guy, I cried for an hour over the Macho Man, over Gary Hart, over my spoiler, over my Bob Orton Sr. I cried over them guys because I loved them like brothers and uncles, and like even John Studd, who said he never liked me. I don't know why, but I cried over him. We were all a big family, and when we get together, we have a great time because we only see each other once. That's why Greg cannot stop that. We only see each other once a year. We get together, and yes, the fans come to see, but we get to see Alpha and Sika. They're great friends of mine also. And I didn't mention one of my great friends, the Russian Koloff, Ivan Koloff. Yeah, he'll probably be there that year, and what a great friend wrestling number 2, great friend of mine. Yes, I cried when I heard about Jerry Brisco and wrestling number 1, because we're like that big family. We love each other. And one thing that we never did, no matter, me and 2 guys were fighting in the dressing room, but when we rang that bell, we give the people the $125 worth. Because in the ring, you're professional. And what you do outside the ring is something else. But in that ring, that squared circle, when you're trying to get them people their money, you wrestle, and I've always done that. I always will do. I don't know 100%. I don't know what 100% is. I always give 100%. I want this the best program you've ever had. Mm-hmm. I want people to say, where did you find this loudmouth at? Well, they wouldn't say that, of course, but here we are, a whole hour. Did you expect we was going to talk for a whole hour we wanted to?
No, and I don't know if
your ratings are going to go sky high now because you were smart enough to have Ox Baker on your show, and I want to see, what's the dates there again?
August 2nd through the 5th.
August 2nd through the 5th. I'm going to be there every day, and every fan, I don't care if you brushed your teeth or not, I don't care if you've been drinking off. I'm going to give you a big hug and say, hello, you're my wrestling fan, and I love you.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And all the information's right on NWALegends.com. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but actually our very first year we had you on the show, 2005. It was actually the first guest we ever set up through Greg Price. And it was voted by our fans the favorite interview of that year.
And your show is going to be the favorite this year also. Because I want you to come around with your microphone and let me say hello to my fans. You going to come to the show and interview me there?
Yeah, we're planning on doing it. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good because when they interview me, they got to buy $50 worth of my stuff.
I'll start saving up the piggy bank.
I don't care if you get, like I say, mug somebody. Steal the money out of your mother's wallet, whatever you do, But come to that show, and I'll be glad to see you.
Excellent. We want to thank you for coming on, and hope it's not another 7 years before we have you back on.
No, let's not wait 7 and I got to finish up because I'm almost run down. All I got is about 35 minutes left, but you only got a few seconds. So say hello to all of my fans and all the guys I mentioned. And I'm looking forward to Angelo Mosca. I'm looking forward to Johnny Valentine. Johnny Valentine, that's another guy I cried for. But Johnny Powers, I'm looking forward to see all of my friends. And Ole Anderson, you didn't hire me this year, so you can't fire me.
I'm sure Ole will be. He's been there every year. If health permits, I'm sure Ole will be there, and he's always a highlight of the whole FanFest weekend.
Did you make a copy of this tape? I need you to send me a copy of this tape.
Definitely, yeah. We save all the interviews.
Well, save this, and when you interview me there, you don't have to buy it. Just give me that tape.
All right, excellent. Thank you for coming on.
Have a good night. Take care. Have a nice evening.
You too.
This is Ivan Koloff, the Russian Bear. I want to invite you to listen to InYourHeadOnline.com. I want you to go there